Okay, everybody, I am excited to introduce to you today's first speaker. Now, for the last 20 years, Rene Rodriguez has not just been a personal friend of mine, he's also researched and applied behavioral neuroscience as a dynamic keynote speaker. He's spoken at every major event the mortgage industry's had. He's been a leadership advisor. I know many CEOs have gone to him. I've personally gone to him many times over the years for advice. World-class sales expert and a speaking coach to top it all off. He believes that we are only scratching the surface on what is possible, that every profession can benefit from fully engaging the human mind and brain. So with this new environment we face, armed with a refreshed identity and mission, it's important to consider what kind of leaders we are and who will we choose to be as our world begins to re-engage. So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I am going to introduce my good friend, my mentor, big brother, Rene Rodriguez. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Sean, how are you?
Excellent, excellent.
How was that intro for you?
Dude, that intro was fantastic. I'm sitting here, I'm like, wow, I really like this guy already.
Yeah. It's a little too much to read. I thought you were going to go from the heart on this one.
You know, I was, but your words just, they're a lot better than my own personally. So I decided to go with it. I mean, the last time me and Rene Rodriguez shared a stage together or any kind of format, it was at an event, I believe in 2015 in December in Las Vegas. He was the MC for the event, and I had actually had to call him probably about an hour for the event. Now, I had like this custom suit. I brought like my nicest suit from the Seattle area. I was all ready to go, and I had gotten in the Uber to get down there. I was going to make sure I got down there early, and as I got into the Uber, I split my pants right down the middle and in half. And I had to call him and FaceTime him and show him. And he's like, dude, just throw on jeans and get down here. So now I'm here.
Too many squats.
Yeah, no squats. I'm not going to talk about if I'm wearing pants or not, but we're just going to go with it.
Who wears pants on Zoom calls anyways, or streamer?
Dude, for real. Exactly. So, man, let's do it. The floor is yours. My first question for you is, I know that you've been working on some great material. Your website, See Rene Speaks, your Lighthouse series, I followed it closely. Lots of people have. Dude, can you tell me a little bit about what this new thing that you're bringing out called digital body language?
Yeah. So as we all understand body language. We all understand that the way that we speak is one thing, but the way our body moves and communicates a lot more information. And I think probably one of the most important things to understand, and I ask this question, is do you want to understand what people are thinking? Would you like to read someone's mind? And most often people say, yeah, absolutely. Every once in a while people are like, yeah, I really don't want to know what people are thinking. But most of us want to have an understanding of what people are thinking. And there's a big clue as to what people are thinking. And that's looking at people's body, how they move, how they respond, and what they do. We know that the body is an expression of the mind. It's an expression of people's emotions. So we know the basic ones that people are closed off. We know that people, if they're turned this way and talking to you, they're not that interested versus if they're leaned in. There's a lot of engagement. We know that if they're looking over here, there's a disengagement. But all of those pieces are part of digital body language. Now, are part of body language. But now we have digital body language, which in a virtual world, here I have this box that I'm working in. So a lot of my hand motions have to move up because if I'm down here moving, you don't really see, or a lot of times we get this view and we can't see our hands. So now the body has to be engaged. So that's one element of it. But the true definition of digital body language is every move that you make digitally, online, everything that you like, every comment that you make, everything that you post, everything you click on. All of that is sending a message to the world of who you are, the pictures you decide to post. I'm not telling you what to post or what not to post. I'm just telling you everything you post is creating a message to the greater world. Everybody right now, before hiring somebody, before working with somebody, goes online to see who you are. If you have an open Instagram account, they're going to look at your pictures. If you have an open Facebook account, they're going to look at your posts and what you're doing. Everything that you do is being observed. And so the question I ask all the time is, if somebody you didn't know you wanted to do business with was looking at this, is this the brand that you want? Everything that you click is everything that you like. It shows up. Hey, this person liked this. And if you're liking something that's racist and your name is there, guess what? People know that you're a racist. All of those elements are coming to light today. If you're liking something that is extreme left, extreme right, whatever it is, I'm not telling you what to like or what not to like. I'm just telling you, you're telling the world. And so understanding, I think today I just kind of want to talk about more of just the physical digital body language in terms of what it is. And so the first thing that we talk about.
Well, one thing just before you say that, I've got to commend you on this because you're so right. I can't tell you how many clients I've talked to, especially recently with all of us being in the stay at home, all of that stuff. They've all said, I looked you up on Facebook first, or I saw you on Instagram, or I like that picture of your kids, or something like that. People are watching way more than what we think. We think something, if we just, like you said, you like one of these posts, especially in today's political climate and everything that's going on. You like that post, and Facebook shows, hey, Sean recently liked this post. What message does that send? What is that conveying? Who are we ruling out? Who are we excluding? All of that comes into play right there. So you're 100% on point.
Yeah, I'm not here to judge it whether it's true or not. Like, should people judge you by your handshake? Should people judge you by the shoes that you wear? Should people judge you by your deodorant choices or lack thereof? They shouldn't, but they do. And so in the physical world, you can't deal in the shoulds and shouldn't, and in the digital world, we can't deal in that as well. We have to embrace the reality that people are looking at everything that we do. And what's crazy is that people forget that everything they do digitally is an expression of what they think and how they view the world. And so you have to make sure that your brand, your messaging to a consumer and to your clients and referral partners is the same as what you're telling the world, because people are looking for incongruency, messages that are opposite. That is one very quick way to discount you as even a viable option. And this is one thing I learned a long time ago. People go online not to qualify you. They go online to disqualify you. You may have gotten a referral, but they're going to check you out online to see if that referral is what the referral partner or the person said about you is congruent to who you are online. And so you have to be really conscious of all of those things. And so the first thing when we're talking about body, right, is if you ever see my eyes go down here, is because I've got your face down there. I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to what you're doing. And that's a big thing to point out, by the way, is to tell people where the camera is. And so folks, if you see me looking over here, I'm not checking my phone. It's because I have the screen over here. So I'm going to do my best to kind of go back and forth. But the goal, and this is one thing we're actually trying to design, is moving. So this is there. We're going to be actually moving to a teleprompter where I can actually look at the screen, the camera comes through the screen, and I can be staring at you and see you at the same time. That's a critical thing, because my eyes are one of the biggest forms of knowing interest. If you see somebody that's like this, they're not interested. And so we want to make sure we're there. Even if I'm going down here and I'm looking at you, Sean, I can see you and I can see your facial expressions. But now if I didn't tell you that's what I'm doing, you're thinking maybe I'm doing something else. Now I went down here to grab something, but I had grabbed my pen to make sure I wrote down where I left off, so that when we came back, I could pick up where we left off. That's me trying to create a seamless experience for you. But if people don't know what I'm doing, they might think that I'm sitting messaging. I mean, you can be this on the yeah, totally paying attention. Oh, sorry, it's my turn. And all of those really come to play. And so eye contact is critical. Try to minimize that gap between the camera lens, because this camera lens is the eye of your client and the audience. Minimize the camera lens and the screen to be as close as possible. Sometimes I'll move the person's all the way over to the edge of the screen, and I'll put the camera right there, so at least there's just a slight movement. Yeah, that's the goal. You got to figure it out for your work environment.
And I'll tell you, one thing that I've really seen is I've been working with a lot of real estate agents during the purchase process for first-time home buyers. And, that millennial group, very tech savvy. They're used to Zoom and they're used to all of that. Now, when you're watching and you're doing things, I've seen it where there's a real estate agent who has their screen over here. They're looking up properties. They're talking occasionally. And they're saying, what property should we go look at, because we have to have specific rules to go to open houses and things like that. They're sitting over here and it just looks like, they could be scrolling on Facebook and not really paying attention to you. And then there was another real estate agent who I've got to just say was incredible with it. When they were going through the process, when it was a really important point, they leaned into the camera and stared straight at it. And they weren't looking at two screens. They might have had two screens up. I wouldn't have known, but just observing and watching, it was just powerful stuff, man. So spot on again.
Absolutely. And you can take one screen, split it in half, put you there and what you're searching there. But if you are doing the search, you say, hey, I've got my stuff here. You just got to tell people what to expect so they understand. And then make sure that your facial expressions are there. You're like, okay, I'm going, oh, this is a nice one. And you look over to them and say, this is really good. Here, all right, I'm sending it to you right now. And I just found a really good one. But this sort of back and forth connection really makes that difference. And so now the thing that I want to talk about is this thing called an influence zone. If I'm speaking in front of a group, and you can see here, where my hands are matters, okay? Now, I'm going to move my hands outside of the influence zone, which starts at your belly button and goes up to your eyes, okay? Now, if I have my hands in this area, I'm being influential. And influential really means I'm capturing your attention. It's more entertaining. It captures attention to see movement. Our eyes are designed to see movement. So if I don't move at all and I'm doing this whole time, your eyes begin to get bored. But if I start moving, it's there. But a lot of people speak like this. They get on stage, they're like, I'm really excited to be here. And all of the people here, so from the left, right to the right side, everything's super excited, but you can't see my hands. And so if this is critical to get it up here so I can move and there. But now what's crazy in this place, we're on these calls. Let's see if I get a little lower. There we go. Now I'm still moving my hands, but you can't see them.
Absolutely.
It's up here. So I have to be able to speak up here and be like, okay, so this is one of the things that we're talking about up here. Now, this is weird if you see me here now. Who speaks like this, right? New behavior. And so we have to learn new behaviors because the influence zone comes from the top of your chest to your eyes now. This is a much smaller place, but my hands have got to be able to move. And so if I'm going to make sure I line this up right, there we go. I'm moving within the space. It's critical. You watch influencers, they always have a hand right here. Like, so, okay, so one of the things that we do, guys, and usually their hand is over here because they're holding their phone, but they're talking to you like this. And always one hand is in the place, right? Because things are moving.
Absolutely.
Watch every influencer, they do the same thing. And so are you seated in a place where you can see your hands? Because your hands are telling you disinterest, or if I'm open to something or if I'm closed off to something. It's a critical component.
100%. 100%. I mean, that influence zone that we have here, I mean, it's hard too, because for guys, if you have a jacket like this, you know how hard it is to move your arms up this high? This is not good. You have to prepare when you're doing different things for clients and video presentations. I know I use Mortgage Coach quite a bit. Love that software, to present to clients. And when you're doing videos, you're usually at a desk. So you got to hit the right angles and you have to be engaged. And it can be a challenge because, your screen's over here and all of that stuff. So again, just fantastic points, man.
One of the things I used to say, Sean, is that I do a 2-finger rule. Is I put my fingers on my head here, and I should be right at the top of the screen. This should be top of the screen. So if I'm here, I've got wasted space up there, right? But if I'm here, it's there. So like you're almost there. I'd even say even get closer.
All right.
And even
try to adjust this a little bit. Got one of those adjustable.
There you go.
Adjustable screens. I'm almost there.
So just move closer right there. See right there. Now, and then now just that little difference makes there, because this is wasted space, and now you have a little bit more space to be able to move. But you're capturing all of this area here.
Is that about right?
Did you? Yeah, of course it looks a lot better. Did you want to go to your next question, or do you want me to keep going on some of these concepts? I think some of your questions actually will tee it up.
Okay, well, let's take a look. Another one that I have is just, what is one fixable mistake that you see a lot of real estate professionals making? I know that you're working with some mortgage teams right now, and you're even running their sales meetings in this new environment. You're talking to major companies like Loan Depot and just other big mortgage companies and real estate companies, walking through their sales meetings. What are you noticing that's happening inside of their videos that you kind of sit back and you almost are like, ugh, I would tweak that. I wouldn't do that.
Well, one
What's
thing
something
that
that's there?
yeah, for sure. We have to embrace that this virtual world isn't going to go away anytime soon. And even when we start getting live, people are really enjoying this, being able to do this from their own home. And so if that's the case, then you've got to embrace the equipment and the things that come with that. And I tell people, you take 2 nights out on the town and you can build an entire studio. Everything that you just need to go. So, but the way to understand the value is one of the amplified principles that we talk about, which is contrast, right? So I'm going to make one change here, okay? So this is what typically people work with. This is called this is a typical webcam. Now I've got amazing lighting in here, so this webcam looks great. So we get rid of some of the lighting, and now all of a sudden I'm starting to look like a typical training, right? So
Yeah,
it's not all there, and even still, the webcam kind of adjusted, and I've got a very high quality microphone. If I were to have the microphones that are working from a computer, now all of a sudden that sounds very different. So I want you to pay attention to the difference, okay? So when we add the lighting back, what happens, right? But now we add an HD camera, and all of a sudden, do you see that difference there?
yeah.
And so now we're able to reach out and everything is there. And so that high definition component makes a huge piece. Now this is a 1080p webcam, right? But webcams compress the video a lot. And so then when we can switch over to this high definition version, it's a lot better. And so on top of that, we can do all sorts of things. I did something for you, Sean, that we can do here, because you know that my background is around understanding the brain. And if we don't understand how this brain works, what keeps people's attention, and the fact that things need to move and be a little bit different and maybe even a little bit novel, like seeing a brain pop up on screen in 3D, then we know that we can keep people's attention. That's one of the biggest things they need to do.
I want to know how you did that. That was amazing. Like, you just brought a brain out of thin air.
It's all a touch of a button. So, but this is novel and cool and cute. But the reason that we're doing this is because I don't have a full stage to run around anymore. I don't have audience interaction. I don't have music and the lighting and the things that happen at a big event. I have to do things to keep the brain engaged. And this is called novelty. And novelty triggers dopamine. And dopamine is the attention neurotransmitter. That's what we want to have. That's what drugs and alcohol and sex and all the things trigger. But something that's like, wait, hey, what was that? Captures attention. Movies and film. People say, well, we have short attention spans. That's not the case. We just don't know how to keep people's attention. If that was true, then people wouldn't watch full-length movies or binge watch their favorite TV show. And so we do things like this, and we've got all sorts of things happening. If you look, I can't show this all the way. Let's see if you can see it. I've got this little button thing here that I'm at the end of my cord there. But that's what allows me to go in and out of those types of things. And so I can hit my button to go to my webcam that looks like crap, or I can go to my DSLR. But I do that to show the contrast. But now let's analyze what I just did. I'm using an amplify influence principle of contrast to communicate a point. I can tell you, hey, you should get this, but your eye is already used to a high definition signal because you watch TV. The only way you remember what it was like is by going back to the old version. And when you see those in contrast, you start seeing that there's a huge difference. And so I would tell agents and I would tell loan officers, anybody here listening, that your value proposition should be presented in contrast of the opposite. When people, if you want to talk about great service, present it in the contrast of poor service and show what the difference is, because then they go, wow, I see the difference. And even better, if your service is one of your value propositions, uncover from the client experiences that they've had with poor service. Let them create the contrast when you're ready to tell stories and experience things. But don't tell them what it's like. Make sure your presentation is one of good service and one that maybe creates some novelty so that they can get excited.
I just wanted to let you run with that, man. That was incredible power, just powerful stuff. I mean, the things that we're able to do inside of this digital age now, it's created this whole new wavelength of thinking, speaking, presenting. It's just a different environment. And I know that so many people have a fear of getting on camera. What do I look like? What's going on? Do I have the right equipment? You know, I've asked so many real estate agents, why aren't you getting into video? Home builders, why aren't you getting into videos? Can you speak to some of the things that you've heard of why they're not adopting this new environment, because this is it. This is our world now.
Yeah, it's scary. It's a big change. I didn't want to adopt it either. I'm on camera all the time. I'm on stages all the time, but holding up a video to this point is still a huge shift. And if it's hard for me, I can imagine it for somebody who's old school. And I love old school. Old school's face to face. You shake hands, you look somebody in the eye, and you can tell right away if that's a person of quality, if they're a person of integrity. And you just remove all that. And you say, I got to look at this lens. I got to press these buttons. It's scary, but that's an opportunity too for those that understand technology. If you can help somebody that is scared of video, don't just tell them what to do. Show up and say, I'm going to do it with you, and show them how easy it is. They don't need to have the HD cameras that I have here. I mean, that's for folks that want to take it to the next level. But
yeah.
Show them how to set up a simple webcam. Show them how to set up the buttons. Show them how to do Zoom. Show them how to clean things up and make it simple. Show them how to present their screen. If you can add value to them, that is the beginning of a relationship. So for those that are scared, I understand. I completely understand. It is not easy. Any behavior change like that is not easy. But I'll tell you this, when you make the attempt, it already sets you apart. And if you can get on there and you're worried about what you look like, the thing that I was told is that, hey, that's what you look like anyways. So people are already looking at you. You're on camera, and these are the cameras that you're on. Everybody has two cameras that are watching you in 3D. Every detail, everything, every blemish, they're seeing it with their own eyes. And so
I want to rattle off a couple of those myths, those like fear factors, we can call them, that people have. And I want to get your feedback. So the first one is, I sound funny. Well, what would you say to somebody who's like, I don't want to get on video because, I noticed on video, I kind of just sound funny. What are your thoughts?
If you're not used to the sound of your voice, that means you haven't recorded your voice often enough. And so the only way to do that is we hear our own voice through the vibration of our skull and our jaw and everything. So it sounds different to us as it does when we hear it back. And so you just have to start doing it more. You'll get accustomed to it, but you have to remember that that's how people hear you. And it is a mental mindset shift that you have to decide to say, it's okay. I know it's going to be different. And if you're new to it, you just got to do it more often. Your brain will get used to it.
Right. Okay. How about, you touched on it a little bit, but it's just, the camera makes me look weird. It doesn't make me look right. We hear that people are fearful of how they look. And again, you kind of touched on it, but can you unpack it just a little bit more?
For sure. Angles and lighting. It's everything. I mean, let's go back to what it looked like here. And this is there. And if I was real close and I was at this angle and you were looking back to me and, from this down up, everybody looks horrible from that angle, right? It's there. So understand that there are angles, right? I've got this camera set up pretty much eye level to me. And eye level is what the best angle. If I would have this 4 or 5 inches lower, I would look like this, right? You call it, you turn your camera, your phone on your camera and it's facing you and you look like Jabba the Hutt. It's because it's just a bad angle. I don't care how pretty and sexy you are. Everybody has bad angles. And
I'm going to tell you, if you guys are having trouble with that, you're having trouble with, I kind of look funny in here and there. And like, I don't like the way the camera looks. Like Renee's talking, you're using almost like that selfie angle with your phone. Okay, find a teenager. All right, yeah. Find a teenager today. Trust me, I have, daughters that are right before that teenage age. I've got tons of little cousins and nieces and nephews. You will be surprised if you get a group of, girls that are 15 to, 28. They can get every angle and it seems like they are perfect. They'll coach you right through it. Like it's flawless. It's almost an art. So go through those, use your kids, use your friends' kids. I mean, they have the angle thing down packed. Trust me.
And I would say the simple rule of thumb is minimum eye level, a little bit higher. If you want to look skinnier, go a little bit higher and have good lighting. But just make sure your camera's around eye level. But the best camera angle is a smile. If you're genuinely smiling, people just want to connect with you. And just remember that the camera lens is the lens of your customer now, the audience. And so you have to be able to look into that and remember.
All right. Well, how about presentation? Now, a lot of real estate agents and home builders, that's the whole reason why we're doing this event, is to help them. What about how we dress? I mean, I know that there was that first week when the stay-at-home order got put in place, man, I was in a hoodie and sweats, and I was just typing on a keyboard trying to figure out what we were going to do, what's going to happen with the kids in school. But now I'm having to do so many more videos like this, interviews, presentations to clients, and I've gotten a lot more cognizant of how I look on camera, even if I'm working at the house. Sure. What do you have to say to that? Presentation wise, how should we be dressing?
How do you show up for work? How do you show up for anything? And so it's easy to get comfortable in your own home, forgetting that this is the new work environment. And so I have mentally made a shift that this isn't my desk. My desk is actually on the other side of this camera. It's not my desk anymore. It's my stage. And when you think about it from a stage or your set, S-E-T, then you need set design. And so I've had people that come and understand the backdrop. You look at every single thing in this right here is a backdrop. This is a paper backdrop here, right? And we know we have a plant because we wanted some
color, contrast,
color and contrast and some depth, right? Something that's here. And I have my most important tool, which is my whiteboard, that I can always be ready to draw a picture if I need to. Those are part of my brand. I'm always something that's there. It's real simple. All my videos have the same thing there. But my desk has my favorite basketball, has my favorite books, everything that if you were to look at, you'd know that that's part of my brand. I don't have dirty plates. I don't have stuff in the background. I don't have other lights shining here, because that's critical. Lighting is everything. You never want light shining into a camera. You want light shining on you. And so if you want, we can talk about lighting for a second. You want to talk lighting?
Let's please do, because I got the ring light over here. I went to Amazon myself and got the $150 package on lights and backdrops. So tell us, please.
So the first thing you're going to realize is that lighting is an art form, right? If you go, in fact, I'll send it to you, Sean, so people can get it from you. I'm going to send you a really simple YouTube video on what they call 3-point lighting. I'm not a lighting expert, but I had to learn this concept. So the first light is you have what's called a key light. This is the one that's right here. So I'm covering the key light. See how that works here?
Yeah.
So that's a key light. So that's filling this half of the face. And so then you have the edge light, I'm sorry, the fill light. You've seen it's just a little, not as bright, because you want a contrast, a little bit brighter, a little bit softer here. And so that contrast creates more of a dramatic effect, but that's just fill. So it just fills there. You see how it's real light. This is much heavier. You see the bigger the shadow, this is a little bit lighter. But the one that people miss is the one that's back here. It's right on the back of my head. You see this one here? It's back behind me. That's called an edge light, right?
Okay.
A little shine right there. That creates an edge. And so that edge makes it pop, right? So more three-dimensional. You can see it right here.
Wow.
You see on the top of your head, you have that shiny thing?
Yeah, that's an office light, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
But yes.
So what my guys tell me is you shut off those fluorescent lights because they make you look flat. And you notice how one of your eyes is super dark and one of them is super bright?
Oh, man. Okay.
There you go. You see how that works? Now, imagine if you're thinking that this is about vanity, it's not.
No, it's not.
This is 100% about the two most important things that you need to see if you trust somebody, if they're paying attention, disinterested or not, is their eyes. And if they're shadowed, or if they're wearing a hat, or the lighting's bad and you can't say, yeah, you can totally trust me. You need to be able to see that stuff, or the smile, all the things, right? I can't tell you. You know what's funny? How many people I've worked with that have Botox, and I'm like, you need to be more expressive. They're like, I am smiling, right? And Botox is one of the worst things right now, because we need this to move. And
right.
Granted, I hear why you're doing it, but I can't tell you how many times I've run into this where I'm like, you need to be more expressive, and later on they tell me that they just had their Botox. But that's how lighting works. It's critical. I just shut off my key light right here. So this is the main light, and this camera starts to adjust a little bit, right? But it just looks a lot richer when you have it right. And if I were to nose up, it makes a big difference.
Wow. That is amazing. So lighting, we know, is essential to the entire process. Can you tell us more about what type of tools should we be using? I mean, you mentioned the lighting. Is there anything? I know you mentioned, I don't know if everybody caught it, but there's like a DSLR camera back there that you're using through some magical way. I haven't figured that one out. I'm on my Microsoft Surface. I noticed you don't have the headphones on, but I do. Should I be having these things on? Like, what are your thoughts, equipment wise?
Well, the purpose of the headphones is to eliminate any feedback going into a microphone for a really high quality podcast or recording. So I don't use it because for me it just becomes a little distracting of what's going on. But in doing a recording, it also allows you to hear what's happening. So there's a real technical use for it. I think it's just some people decide to do it or not. Some headphones have the microphone built in, which sounds great. You just got to decide what your look is and what your vibe is. If I'm training, it doesn't allow me to do that. If I'm podcasting, I'm definitely wearing the cans or the headphones, as they're calling it. I'm using a DSLR camera. DSLR is like the camera you take to take pictures.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so when this whole thing came down, I challenged my videographer, filmmaker guy. I said, what would it take to turn that into it? And he thought, So Zoom doesn't like using this. And so we've had to use different programs to be able to allow a DSLR HD signal to go through that. And so you got to have good people. And that's kind of the big lesson. You got to have, this isn't a lonely thing anymore. Because, for me doing 100 keynotes a year, all of them going away, before I show up and there's hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in lighting and equipment and everything. And I just show up with me and I just present. And something, I used to have I don't use PowerPoint anymore, but most of the time they show up with a PowerPoint and that's it. But now production value falls on this side of the camera. And so we've got to make sure we understand basics of lighting, basics of audio, right? This is a very high-end audio microphone and a good high-quality video, if this is what you're going to invest in, right? But at a minimum, get your basics in play, get some basic lighting in place, some basic understanding of that stuff, and you can make a massive, massive improvement. Because, I'll just go back to the webcam. It's not that it's horrible, right? This is not horrible. I just get really good lighting in here. Right? If I were to turn this lighting off, then it changes the whole dynamic. So again, see the power of contrast. Makes you recognize what it looks like.
Absolutely. I think the thing that we're moving into is before, as real estate, mortgage, and home building professionals, for our advertising, for our marketing, we were investing in so many different things: events, open houses, signs, displays, all kinds of advertisements. And now I think more than ever, the early adapters, we'll call them, they're investing in stuff like what you're talking about, having that great sound quality, having the lighting, whatever you just did with the brain, which was pretty awesome. Yes, that thing right there, they're adapting. So
even what you're doing, Sean, you're using StreamYard, which allows you to have all the branding and the contact information, everything. Those are critical pieces.
Yeah. I think there's so much to be said about understanding that now what we live in, this box right here, this is how people are going to brand us. This is how people are going to see us. So if you can do that, hey, spend a little bit more money for the upgraded version. I know the guy that's designing all of this for me over at Dream, being able to have my logo over here, my contact information here at the bottom, that's stuff that you can do on Zoom. Juan Eckes over at Dream is phenomenal with this stuff. And you can do those overlays and those simple things, but how much more professional does it come across when you're able to have that kind of branding, that kind of message out there?
It's huge. Branding is everything. Branding is about a promise. That's what people forget, is that branding represents a promise. And how do you feel when people break your promise? It's a betrayal. And so brands make promises, but then people will say, what promises? Well, the promise is solve something, a problem, your problem. And if the brand is done well, it's identified what your problem that you're looking to solve, and it's put the message out there that we know how to solve it. And the color, the shapes, and everything that's used represent the promise to solve a problem. And so when I see that, I feel like a problem's being solved. And so you have to be clear of what branding is. Most people don't even understand branding. They think branding is design. No, it's a portion of what branding is. Branding is about understanding your customer and what problem they're looking to solve. And there's two kinds of problems. There's external problems, but there's internal problems. Most people focus on the external, like they need a mortgage. But the internal problem is I want to create memories for my family. And right now I don't have the place to run and create those memories. I can't put up the picture and design this and do the custom work inside because I'm renting. But if I can have my own place, think of the memories I'll be able to do. And that's the problem. And your brand should speak to that. And if it's consistent and the messaging and what's being said is consistent along with the colors, then you can remove the messaging and just see the colors and I have the same emotional response. That's the beauty of branding.
Wow. Wow. You know, I don't know if everybody knows enough of the backstory about how you and I first met. There was a service way back in the day that was called Loan Toolbox. And you were a regular content provider there for mortgage loan officers. And then a couple of years later, you know, just after Facebook got started, I started messaging you. That's how long we've been friends.
$1 million challenge.
Right, exactly. We did $1 million challenge. We did all of these different things. And then you hosted an event inside of Minnesota. And it changed my life at 24 years old. And that event was called Professional Influence. You walked me through everything a lot of the stuff that we're talking about right now.
Amplify.
How to dress, all of that stuff. And then you graduated that, refined it, and it's called Amplify now. And there are some of the highest producing loan officers and real estate agents that are now partaking in this course. I want you to talk about it just a little bit, but it's not even just the loan officer community. I believe you had a Miss America participant in there. You've had a number of people come in and learn how to present better, not just digitally on video, but in person with your clients. Before we let you go, can you, we got about 9-10 minutes here. Can you talk a little bit about that course and what it means? Because I mean, I think people really need to hear that this kind of stuff, what we're getting right now, you can get it in a more robust and in-depth form.
For sure. And for those that want to see it, you can go to my website. It's crenespeak.com. It's actually right there. And then /amplify or just the topic amplify. That first video will really give you a sense of what it is.
And we're going to put those links in there. We'll put the links in the comments.
But Amplify is a 2.5-day intense experience. And people would say it's a life-changing experience. It's one where people come together. It's limited to 10 people. And we go through a process to really uncover what their story is. And it's an intense process. It's not an easy one. And the reason we go through that is we want to uncover what their story is and understand their origin story, how they got to where they're at, why they love serving the customers that they serve. But then they put it into practice to be able to deliver that message in front of 3 cameras, professional photographers, and a group of people ready to critique the hell out of every movement they make, every and ah. Everything is dissected with intensity. And I say intensity because I'm not a big believer of taking a long time to make change. If we know that your ums and ahs are caused by your stress around silence, we're just going to solve that stress around silence. If you've got nervous tics and twitches, we're going to shine a light on that so it calms down and give you the breathing exercises to be able to relax. We're going to give you a sequence to be able to communicate a story in the same way you've heard me do over the last 30 minutes that makes sense, frame, message, tie down. And then we're going to provide the video of this transformation afterwards, where you see where you were and where you ended up, and that where you ended up actually becomes amazing content that people are using on social media. I knew that I could change people's self-esteem, how they see themselves, when you put a professional environment together. You put the right camera with the right lighting and the right sequencing together, people sound like they've been speaking for 20 years. And what ends up happening is our goal is to get your heart to speak in the sequence of the brain, so that I speak in a way that people want to act on. And that's, in essence, what Amplify is about.
Yeah, and it's a complete thing. I mean, it starts off with a great dinner. And I mean, I'm not going to go into the details because that is all your arena. But what I can do is I can speak to the power, not just of the event, but I can also speak to the power of the people who are participating in this event. Like, if you guys, please go to the link right here. I'll put some examples in the comments after this is all done of great stories that come out of Amplify, and to see the transition from start to finish on how these speakers are now presenting themselves, what these speakers are able to produce in 2 short days. I can't speak to that enough. It is by far and away the most incredible course that you could take and really invest in. And I believe, you know, for the longest time it was an in-person thing, and you're now moving towards digital?
Well, it still is in person for those that are willing to travel, but we just launched a virtual version of it where it's going to be this for over 6 weeks, 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours a week for 6 weeks, and 8 other people that are involved. So we have a grid of 8 and presenting along with on-demand content that is going to be guiding them through it. So it's still going to be there. And the in-person events are still there. Actually, they're selling out right now. So we've got a bunch of them coming that are still happening, but it's we realize that some people still it's the virtual isn't a replacement for the in-person. This is about those that are going to be spending more time in this little box, and how do I become better at this? So we provide them the lists and how to buy the equipment, teach them about lighting, and then the storytelling, and then the digital body language to be able to really affect their new space.
And this is definitely an investment. It's not one of those flash overnight magic bullet type things that you see on infomercials. This is an investment, it's a commitment, and you do come out a different person. So the thing that I would say is, I know I'm definitely signed up for the in-person. I'm going to be doing it. And if you want to look at some of the people, I know that there was just one recently in our area, in the Seattle Bellevue area, and the caliber of the producers was just incredible. And the reason why I'm bringing all of this out is because if this is our new arena, if this is our new stage, we need to be more influential, better speakers, more polished. That way we're not struggling. Again, I go back to what is stopping us? What are the roadblocks that I've heard so many people say about why I'm not switching to using video or using Zoom calls to meet with clients? It's because they don't know what to say. They don't know the script. And when you sit down with somebody like Rene and you invest your time, you invest your energy, you invest everything that's inside of it, and you just keep it going, and you're able to speak in the sequence of your heart and your mind, so it comes out just very, very fluid and polished. That's magic. That's how you start influencing more. That's how you start selling more. That's how your money-making activities really take it to a higher level, and you just become that much better of a professional. Because I know that we all want to come out of this pandemic bigger and better than we came into it with. This is a great learning opportunity for all of us.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. I appreciate your kind words, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
can I give you one tip for your next speakers?
I would love that.
All right. So I want everybody, if you can see your ceiling in your backdrop, that means your camera is too low. And so if you notice, you cannot see my ceiling at all. You want it to be right here. Okay. You will see what ends up happening is that if it's too low, you have this and you look like the eyes are half closed, right? And so I want to see you dead on, right, Sean? Because you have a great book. Put a couple books under the computer, do whatever you got to do to rig that thing up so it's eye level with you, and you'll watch the shadows on your eyes open up and people will be able to see it. But remember, if you can see your ceiling, see I can see the light in the background?
Yeah.
That means it's coming at an angle. We want to straighten that angle.
Got it. All right, let me see if I can do that. I'll put the headphones down.
It's actually, it'd be kind of fun to watch for those that are watching right now. I think see if you can do it. I'll take while you're doing that. And so everybody here that's watching, I want you to look at yourself in your own camera right now. Can you see your ceiling? That's one thing. If you can see your ceiling, that means your camera is too low. It's pointing up. It's giving you a bad angle, and people can't get a chance to see your facial expressions properly. So do what you got to do. Lift that up. Another thing, do you have an open window behind you? If you have an open window behind you, it's washing out the camera, probably making you look darker than you need to be, and making that there, or maybe it's going in and out of, because the white balance doesn't know what to choose from. And so find an angle that you have the light shining on your face versus on the camera lens. You want the camera lens not to have anything shining on it. And so those are just two real simple things. And then make sure you look at every single thing. We were shooting a video last night for our on-demand piece, and we had spent from 5 a.m. in the morning prepping all the way to 1:30 in the morning, and we had this beautiful set made up, and we start filming, and my guy tells me, stop. And I'm like, why? He goes, a big bag of corn, horse corn in the background. And it was like everything was there, but we put we feed the corn to the deer in the back, and we had the bag sitting there. Simple detail, but guarantee it, in today's world, somebody, I could have put out some great content, and instead of people focusing on the content, you had some troll talking about, why is there horse corn or corn in the video? And so all of those little details matter. And then I would also invite you to, once you get it set up, have somebody on the outside, maybe a family member, a spouse, come in and critique what your set looks like. And is it portraying the message? I had curtains that I had that I was told that looked like grandma curtains. I thought they were cool, but I guess my taste is in grandma curtains. And so we replaced them for all black. And so you have to be willing to ask people that you trust their views of design and style in all aspects to just give you an honest opinion. Again, make sure you can't see the ceiling, make sure there's no lights behind you, and make sure it's eye level with the camera, right? And make sure that you have a nice set design. How you looking there, Sean? Is it getting together? I hope we didn't lose him here.
Nope, it's not.
But watch
I'm trying. I'll get some books
a little bit, and then you just get down, just so you can see the difference.
So I'll be like,
but this is the process, and I want people to see that this is one of the reasons I respect you, is that you're constantly. I know you're gonna call me afterwards. We're gonna do this probably together. You're constantly looking for that edge and how to make it better. There is a learning curve to this. And if you're frustrated by any learning curve, then you're not going to learn anything new. Okay, this is new. Get over it. It's going to be frustrating. I was literally this morning, because we tore everything down, had to bring everything back up, and I had my guy that was controlling my screen all the way up till we got here, just making sure everything was functional and working correctly. This is a learning curve. It's going to be new. Just get used to it and embrace the process and enjoy it.
It's definitely a different feel. I mean, I'm laughing because I knew that we were going to be doing this event, and it's something that I've been wanting to put together was, just get an adjustable table. So I have the standing desk now, and get a laptop adjustable deal. So the fact of the matter is I'm going to have to make a complaint to Amazon. It's just not moving with the fluidity that I would like, but it is what it is. So
can you get lower once just to see what it looks like, and then drop your camera down?
Yeah.
And a little further. So now you can see your eyes. You see how different that looks?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I can. I'll have to do that. My legs are already burning. You can tell I haven't been in the gym in a minute, man.
Hey man, it's all part of the process.
Absolutely. So I'm going to bring on some friends of yours.
Oh.
As we get into the next one.
Oh man, who's that? Right. Oh no
so
way.
These are our next speakers that we have up. I'm going to drop the any of the branding here. Let's see.
Can you guys hear? David, Steve, can you guys hear?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
How are you guys?
Good.
There we go. There we go.
I'm arranging my camera, and I'm trying to. I've been watching you. It's been great.
Perfectly right there.
Yeah, I'm too old to worry about any of that stuff. I'm doing the best I can do.
Steve,
so, ladies and gentlemen,
we've all made more money.
As we continue to keep this going, we now are joined by Steve Harney and David Childers. Rene, whenever you got to go, man. But I know these guys wanted to have you on for a little bit. Everybody kind of here.
Two of the most valuable people in the entire industry. If I can hang out with them, I will cancel anything I've got. So you tell me what you need, and you got to kick me out, I'm out. So you tell me, how can I?
Well, you know what? This would add value. I know that I've worked on my intros, but I mean, kind of to put you Johnny on the spot here and use your amplify skills. Could you help us out with introducing Steve and David?
That would be the greatest pleasure.
Please.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me give a little backdrop here. Every single person in here is watching this right now, follows a sales process, whether you do it intentionally or whether you do it by accident. You're going to need to prospect and generate leads. And those leads you generate might be through the old school one-on-one, going out and talking to people, or you might have a marketing process that generates leads for you. But that lead needs to set an appointment at some point. And they're going to get on the phone with you, Zoom call, or in person. And it's at that point you're going to have to learn how to present value. And I will guarantee you that a high percentage of you watching here just wing that process. You just go with the flow and see what's going on, or even worse, in a refi environment, you just start taking application information. Or if you meet with a real estate agent, you just do meets and greets. The moment you decide to become a sales professional is the moment you decide that you need presentation. Presentation is about being able to answer why now is the time to buy, why you are credible, why people can trust you. I will tell you, hands down, without question, the best resource for understanding why now is the time to buy. And the people that have done the work for you to create the graphics, to create the scripting, to create the most recent information are sitting on this call with you right below, right here, with Mr. Steve Harney and Dave Childers. And so I am going to be watching and learning from two of the industry greats.
Wow. I mean, if you guys want to keep that, and you guys can run it back on the loop when you guys do your Monday, Wednesday, and Friday deep dive, you have all the royalty rights to that, because I love letting him introduce me.
I think no doubt. And thank you for that, Rene. Thank you, Sean, for having both Steve and I on. And, I caught a little bit before what you were doing, Rene, and talking about digital body language. And, I want to go a step further. And Steve and I were talking about this last week. We present a lot of different things. What's happening in the market is Keeping Current Matters. And Sean, we're grateful for a chance just to share a little bit today. But the important fact of how we present that, how we communicate to people, Rene, I don't think there's anybody in our business that's better at that than helping us than you, Rene. And I know even in my presentation here, I was talking with Steve about it last week, being a part of, the Amplify program that you're doing distance now, I want to get in that and get in the next one coming up, because I've got to grow in that area. So Rene, thanks for encouraging us in the ability that we have, or getting better at that in how we present. So we're excited to be here, Sean, and Rene, thanks for that introduction.
I'm going to take the opposite tack. I didn't like Rene's introduction at all, because I feel like it's a movie. Everyone says how great the movie is, and they keep on saying it can't be as great as everything you heard. So even though the movie's really good, you're like, oh man, I thought it was even going to be better. So tone it down a little bit, Rene.
It's still an understatement.
You said, but
you guys have changed so many lives and affected so many homeowners. And not even that, you guys stepped up when everybody was quiet during the initial pandemic to lead the way. Steve, I was moved to tears when you sent me that text message. You said you vowed that you didn't need sleep for these 45 days, that you were going to commit to communicating to people, because you knew what was happening. You and I both talked about this, that as soon as the information came out, irrationality began, and somebody had to step up and to constantly ring the bell that this is going to be okay, that we're going to come back, and had to be louder than the other media. And I remember being tired and reading your text message saying, you know what, Steve's not sleeping, neither do I. And so I want to personally thank you for that, but I think the industry needs to thank you guys for that.
Yeah, and you guys really ran on a parallel plane there. I mean, while Steve and David are putting out content like what are the 5 biggest questions to answer, in connection with the coronavirus and the housing market, you're over here on the other side saying this is how we're leaders with the information. So people who are subscribing to both channels of information, if you're on Keeping Current Matters, I can't tell you how valuable that Facebook group is. It is by far and away one of the best Facebook groups you could be a part of as a real estate professional. And then on the other side, not only are we getting all of the content and how to present it, but we're learning how to empathize on camera and be good leaders. Right now, there's so much negative information going out on social media that it can not only bog down our clients, but it can bog us down. And when we combine what you guys have all done together, we're really becoming local economists, local experts, and really thought leaders in our community to promote all kinds of the right information that needs to be coming out. So I can't wait to hear what you guys have to talk about.
And Sean, I want to say one thing to you with just the fact that you put this together. I know all the hard work you do. I see it all the time. What Rene does, what David does, what I do, all of that is important. But we all have to realize is we're making a war plan. The important thing is that who are the soldiers out there making that plan happen? And that's you. You're out in the streets doing it every day. That's all the people that are on this call. And those are the people we really have to thank, because no matter how much we do to say this is the way it should be done, someone's got to go do it.
Amen.
And the people on this call, you deserve so much credit for first bringing back the housing market, and because we're in the middle of that, and we'll talk about that in a second. And that's going to enable us to bring back the entire economy
Absolutely.
It's the foot soldiers. It's the people out there actually meeting with homeowners, meeting with buyers. They're the people meeting, getting the, that buyer, that loan. Those are the people who deserve all the credit. But I'm glad that we patted each other on the back so much. That made me feel good.
Well, let's jump into it, guys. Like,
Sure.
What do you got for us?
Absolutely. I'll start it here, and I think we want to talk about a few things today, Sean. Really answering this question and sharing some visuals around, are we heading into another 2008 or housing crisis here across the country? And so we're going to bring you some context to that, economic recovery, why, really the housing market right now is poised to lead us out of this economic downturn we've been in as a country. Yeah. And then there's still a lot of questions about unemployment. All over the country, people have lost jobs, have been placed on furlough or whatever the case may be. And we want to be able to, one, understand that, but also, see people get back to work. And so answering some of those questions is what we'll attempt to do today. So if you're good with it, I'll go ahead and share my screen and share some slides, and we'll start talking about, the market and give some people some information on that.
Yeah, please share away.
I'm gonna hop off so I don't take up any real estate here. I'm gonna be around. If you for some reason want me back, just let me know. I'm more than happy to get on. But you guys, everybody watching here, you are in the best hands. I would get your pen and paper ready. Be ready to watch this because you're about to find some great information. Love you guys.
One thing, Rene. Hey guys, did you see this? Rene, do the brain thing. Do the brain thing real quick.
I did see that.
Is this not cool? Wow. Right? I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Hey, thank you for everything you do. We don't say goodbye later. I'll say goodbye now. I know that you was very gracious in how much I've done for you over this period of time. What KCM has done. Believe me, I was reading every one of your posts, listening to every one of your videos, watching every one of your videos. You helped me through those first 45 days. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. We'll love you guys. We'll connect soon here.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, guys.
So I'm going to share my screen here. Sean, let me know.
Yep.
Can you see that? I believe I have the right screen here. Can you see the slide there up?
Not yet.
All right. Perfect.
You guys can? I can't see the screen.
No, I cannot see it.
All right. Let's try. Let's see. I think you got to go on the bottom where it says share screen.
Yeah, I'm there. Let me see if that sharing screen here. Let's see if we can share my entire screen.
Yep, should say share screen, and then I should be able to just approve it on my end.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm seeing where it's at there. We may have some issues there. I may not be able to do that, but I can get you these slides after the fact, Sean, so everybody can see those. Chrome is showing an issue with sharing here on stream. I'm not sure what that is.
All right. Yeah, we may have to refresh. If you want to send them to me while you're talking, I will go ahead and start to bring up some of those.
Okay, perfect. Let me do that. Bear with me real quick while I do that, and I'll share that to you right now. All right, Sean, I am sending those as we speak. You should have those. Once you have those, maybe share, start with slide number 4, Sean, and we'll get that up. And what I sent to Sean was what our team did is we went back and we looked at the market in 2008 and started to compare that to the market today so that we can answer that question that we started off with of, are we about to see another housing crisis in this country? A lot of questions about that, really stemming from, like we talked about, unemployment, so many people being impacted during the coronavirus by job loss or being furloughed from their job. And then, we remember 2008 as the last crisis. And so when we start to hear, words like recession, like was, announced last week that, hey, now we're in a recession in this country, we think, okay, here goes housing, and here we go again down that road. And so our team started with prices and said, okay, where were we, with regard to prices back then in the housing crash, and where are we?
David, let me just jump in for a second, because
yeah, go ahead.
You figure out what you're thinking on that, but I just want to let everyone know we're in the middle. Since we're the realtors, we're in the middle of this whole thing, and we might not feel it. We're seeing the market coming back really, really strong, but we have to realize that our consumers are really gathering a lot of their information from the media. And what David was just alluding to was the fact that the National Bureau of Economic Research just last week came out saying, yes, we are technically in a recession. Now, that didn't really much matter. Everyone kind of knew we were in a recession because they shut the economy down. But once that starts to be headlines and going into a very contested political environment, those headlines will appear over and over again. And when people hear the word recession, they're going to hear housing crash, because that's what happened in the last recession. And David wants to show you some slides to show how this is different this time than it was back then.
Yeah.
So
Sean, go ahead.
That's not a slide, but
yeah, go ahead and go to slide 4. We'll get this started with there, because that's that first piece right here that we were talking about. What's happened with prices back in 2008? One more, Sean. As compared to today. So perfect, right there. So thank you for getting that up there, Sean. What you see right here is a comparison to appreciation leading up to the housing crash in this country, the 6 years leading up, as compared to the 6 years leading up to today on the right. And just visually, when you look at it there, you can see that the appreciation back then was much higher than it is today. And even at that time back, with appreciation, I think it's fair to say that we had runaway appreciation in this country in residential real estate. And, when I think about runaway appreciation, I think about watching a Western movie and somebody, runs into town and they say there's a runaway train coming. And at that point, we know something bad's about to happen. And certainly then when our business was at the epicenter of the downturn, bad things did happen in housing. And while we've had appreciation for the last 6 years, we have not had it to the degree that we had back then. And I think it's fair to say that back in the housing crash, that runaway appreciation led to a lot of the issues that we faced. And while we've had appreciation leading up to today, you can notice there in 2017, the highest year of appreciation, it isn't equal to the lowest year in 2001. So important to remember as we look at what's going on with pricing, what has happened to pricing coming into this market over the last 6 years as we compare these two scenarios. Let's go to the next slide, Sean, because the next slide talks really visually paints a picture of supply in this country, and it shows months of supply, going back to the housing crisis and then even coming up to today. And what we know back then is we were in an oversupply situation in this country in the housing crash. And you can see there in 2008, around that time, we had 10, 11 months of supply on the market, literally an oversupply of homes for the number of people that wanted to buy them. And we sit in a very, very different position today, in a situation where across the country, we sit in about 4.1 months of supply across the country, and undersupply, not enough homes on the market for the number of people that want to buy them. So,
I love this. I love this because what happens is we all remember 2010, and sometimes it gets completely just vilified. Everybody, if you've been a real estate agent, you've been in the market for 3 years, you hear stories about 2008 through 2012, and like houses were going for pennies on the dollars, and it gets very dramatized. It was a hard time. It was a hard time for anybody that was in the industry, but I love how you guys put it here visually. 2010 looked like this, and we hear all the time, like I see in so many real estate agent and home builder videos right now, hey guys, we have low inventory. Well, what does that mean? Well, this is a great visual that everybody should be sharing, because this is actually what it looks like. We can compare it back to 2010.
Right. And I agree with you, Sean. Just being able to look at it this way, and you can visually see how much more inventory, we had on the market back then as compared to today. And even the undersupply right now in this, the seller's market example is putting upward pressure on prices across the country, is there's less supply for the number of people that want to go out and buy a home today. Let's go to the next slide, though, because I think it'll start a conversation that's very important today. And this is a representation of the total home equity cashed out the 3 years leading up to the crash compared to the 3 years leading up to today. And on the left there, you see that over the 3 years leading up to the housing crash, $824 billion was processed in this country as cash out refis. And think about that, back in that time, people harvesting equity from their homes, then repositioning that equity into depreciating assets, maybe funding lifestyle, going on vacations, thinking this is not going to end. This will never end. And we know it did. And we know the problems that we had there.
I mean, it's pretty much like they, were treating their houses like they were ATMs almost.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. And that was really what was happening at that time. Now let's look at the 3 years leading up to today, where $247 billion has been cashed out as cash out refinances, really a fraction of what it was there. And I would say this, Sean, it speaks to a couple of things. First, it speaks to people handling equity in their homes very differently today than they did back then. And what I would say about that is it speaks to, I think we can say, lessons that consumers, learned back then. And they say, I don't want to repeat that lesson again. I don't want to be in a situation like I was then, and I'm going to protect that equity in my home. And so as we compare these two markets, we see very different fundamentals inside the market. Go to the next slide, because it'll kind of speak to this equity position as well.
And as I do that, I want to kind of unpack one thing that we've been hearing from the mortgage side, because I think it's important that both real estate agents and home builders hear this. I'm curious to see what the 2020 numbers will look like when it comes to refinances, because I believe, if I have the numbers right, in our best year in mortgages, our best year, which is actually last year, we did over $3 trillion in mortgages. Now, to quantify what a trillion is, if you were to give somebody $1 every second of the day, that's $84,000. You'd have to do that for 31,027 years to equal $1 trillion.
Wow.
Okay. So that's a lot of money. On our best year, we did $3 trillion. This year, NAR, MBA have estimated that there's over $11 trillion in mortgages that could be refinanced. Now, when COVID started to happen, cash out refinances got a lot tighter for the guidelines, but everybody was going because of the interest rates, removing PMI, things like that. So keep in mind, we're trying to fit $11 trillion in just refinance mortgages. Okay. So add another $1.5 trillion for, purchase mortgages. We're trying to fit that into an industry that's used to doing about $3 trillion, with half the workforce at home and appraisers, going through their bit, with only being able to go in some houses, not go in some houses. I mean, it's going to be a very, very interesting number in 2020 as far as that cash out goes.
I agree with you entirely, Sean. And I want to tell everyone on the call here, the only person that has a tougher job than we do right now is the mortgage professional you're dealing with. And hopefully that is Sean, because he's bringing you great content. They have the most difficult job in the world right now, because they're under tremendous amount of pressure from two fronts, the refinance front and the purchase mortgage applications are skyrocketing. It was announced just yesterday at the highest level in 11 years. So it's all of that volume coming in there. So we have to be very, very patient. But I want you to understand a little bit difference between what David is saying and what Sean is saying, and they know the differences. But I think that refinancing your home is a good thing. So if we led you to believe that's not the case, I apologize.
No.
refinance is a good thing because many times you're refinancing for a lower rate and saving money every month on your mortgage payment.
Yeah, I was just looking at it in connection with this slide right here. How much money will be taken as far as cash out. That'll be interesting to see.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
It will be. But all right, go ahead, guys. I didn't want to take over. I just wanted to add that.
No. I think that point, of even today being able to, there are a lot of relief that people have felt from going through a cash out refinance to free up dollars. They wouldn't be able to do that if they didn't have the equity in their homes to go do it. And you look at this slide here it came from John Burns Consulting, which is a consulting firm that consults in our industry with big hedge fund owners, publicly traded builders that need data. And they give us the percentage of equity this year. And it starts out with 42.1% of the homes in this country are owned free and clear. They don't have a mortgage on them. 16.6% of the homes have at least 60% equity. And you can go around the pie to see the remainder of that, but a significant amount of equity in homes that allow people to be able to weather the storm if they need to, economically speaking. And so that's a very, very good thing. And another thing that would be a difference, between here in 2008 is just the strength of equity in homes across the country. And it's summed up by the next slide, Sean, if you want to hop to that. And if we combine that, we know that almost 60% of the houses, 58.7 of them, have at least 60% equity. And we know that 42.1% of the homes are owned free and clear. They don't even have a mortgage on them. And CoreLogic tells us that the average equity of a home with a mortgage is $177,000. So going back to that original question, where in 2008 we saw people, walking away from mortgages or from homes where they literally owed more at that point than what they were able to sell it for. They walked. And so the equity position across the country today, nobody's walking away from, $177 or $150 or $100,000 in equity in a home. So a very different situation relative to that, and one that I think people that stewarded equity well during, I'll call it, the non-crisis time, are able to, they have to make a decision to leverage that equity to get through the tough time.
Absolutely.
It brings up this question too. I want to share two more slides before I turn it over to Steve, of forbearances, something you and I have talked about, Sean, of the state of forbearances here. And this was an interesting fact that came out from Black Knight. It says of all active forbearances which are past due on their mortgage, 90% have at least 10% equity in their home. Now, what's important about that? That means they could transact the sale of that home and not write a check for it. They would still be positive a commission, and we know that 90% of those homes are in that situation. Certainly not saying that 90% of those are going to default or anything like that, but it helps us make sense of those homes in forbearance. If they had to do something, they could do it. It wouldn't be a situation where they would they're underwater, or they couldn't make something happen relative to the sale of their home, because as more of this talk kind of continues around recession and economic slowdown. We've got to remember that recession, and be able to boldly say this, recession does not equal housing crisis. Recession equals an economic slowdown. And we've seen that no matter where we're listening to from today, the towns that we live in, restaurants and businesses and other things have had to slow down. We're fortunate in our business where there, at times, can work from home, certainly across the country in different states. Real estate has been essential and non-essential, but we've been able to serve clients, been able to get the information out to clients during this time. But what our team did, Sean, is we went back and looked at the past 5 recessions in this country and looked at the impact of home prices.
Can we make these slides available to people afterwards?
Absolutely. I'll send you. You can send those out to anybody. You've got them now.
Awesome.
Do whatever you want with it.
Incredible. I love this slide. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Everybody take these. Sean will show you how to get those. But we remember 2008 when homes across the country lost almost 20%. But if we go back and look at prior recessions going all the way back to the mid-'70s, we know that of the 4 recessions then, one of those had depreciation in prices, but 3 of them had appreciation. Matter of fact, 2 of those times over 6%. And so when we look at recession, previously in this country, we can clearly say it doesn't equal a housing crisis. A recession equals an economic slowdown. And being able to get that word out there as people, make a decision and say, hey, I'm going to wait, or I'm going to do something based on, the thought that we're going down the road of 2008 again. So
absolutely.
Yeah, this just visually paints that picture.
Yeah, and I mean, we hear about it so many times where, we'll see it on CNBC and they'll say, okay, in February, we experienced a recession. Now, to the average person, they think, hey, 2008, boom, what's going to happen all over again? Well, I believe, and I'm hoping I'm saying this right, a recession is basically the GDP went negative 2 consecutive quarters. Okay? That does not mean that you're going to see short sales and foreclosures on every corner like it was 2008. Again, as David said, economic slowdown. It sucks. It's not fun. We don't like it. But housing, for the most part, as you can see in these incredible graphics, look, we're all right. We're okay. It does not mean housing crisis. Recession does not equal housing crisis.
Great point. Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you to go through the economic piece of it.
Yeah, and I like what you just said, Sean, a lot. We're not going to see the foreclosures and all those doomsayers that are saying this and that. All the forbearance of all the people who are in forbearance, they were given the right to do that. And as David explained, with the amount of equity they had in a house, they're going to sell the house before it goes to foreclosure if they run into a challenge.
Yeah.
So we're in a totally different place. And David, I love the slides that KCM crew put together for that. But now let's take a look at, where the economy is going from here. Because back in March, we turned off, we hit the pause button and said, all right, fine. Some naysayers were saying it's going to take us forever to come back from that. It's going to take us years to come back from that. One economist talked about a decade or more. All right, so let's take a look at what the Wall Street Journal showed us, that their survey of economists showed that 91.2% of all the economists they surveyed said either we've already begun the resurgence, we're already coming back, or we're soon to be coming back. Meaning that 91.2% said at least by the end of this year, we're coming back strong. So don't listen to the naysayers, the doom and gloom people, because we can see that in retail sales, everyone projected that the sales were going to be down 8%. Retail sales were up 18%. Everyone projected that our industry was going to go out of business. Well, how could you sell without being able to show it, and you don't have any open houses, and how to buy? Well, we had a lot of innovation, a lot of ingenuity. We figured it out and we turned it around. As a matter of fact, if we go to the next slide, that's the national economy.
Just to add one thing on here, or actually 2 small points. Number one, they were kind of right in this sense. The iBuyers, if you're a real estate agent and you're listening, those iBuyers, I have not seen as much from them through this pandemic. But your real estate agents, I've seen them in full force. There's all this pent-up demand, which Steve's going to talk about. And just to add a little bit more, I'm definitely in that 68.4 group. And the reason why is I had a great conversation I'll talk about a little bit later at one of my favorite restaurants last night. Steve's talked about it before, and Dave Savage over at Mortgage Coach has done the same thing. Right now in our industry, we need to be going out to supporting these local businesses, tipping really heavy. And I was doing that last night. I had dinner, I went and got it. And one thing just really stood out to me, and that was, we hear all these mentions about a second wave of the coronavirus. Well, think about yourself. Aren't you preparing if that's the case? The thing about this situation in March, it caught us all off guard. These business owners, this time, they're thinking. They're trying to figure out, how can we adapt to Uber Eats if that's the case? How can we make sure that we're adapting to Postmates? How do we not lay our people off? How do we keep people working? I'm sure as a real estate agent at home, you're probably sitting there like, okay, if there is a second wave, how am I going to adapt? How am I going to pivot? It's all going through our minds. People are thinking, we're forming communities. Real estate professionals, mortgage professionals are all supporting each other. We're not going to see another 2008. What we're going to see is, again, a strong American economy, because now we know what to expect. We understand and we're adapting. So definitely at 68.4%, you're spot on.
All right. Well, I'll give the credit to the Wall Street Journal, though David and I said very early on that we believed it was going to be a V recovery. And as a matter of fact, our research just came out, I think it was yesterday, and said as more Americans get back to work, we're starting to see both buyers and sellers returning to the market, creating the beginning of what we believe is the V-shaped recovery in the housing sector. So what we do for a living, we're already coming back, and we're coming back rapidly. And that's a tremendous credit, as I said before, to the agents in this country, to the mortgage professionals in this country, because you're the ones that are making that happen. All right. And we'll get in a little bit about how important that is. But that's in the housing industry. If we go to the next slide, let's take a look at what the same group of economists that were surveyed by the Wall Street Journal, what they're saying is going to be in the overall economy. 69% say it's going to be a Nike swoosh, which we'll talk about in a second, and 13.8% say it's a V-shaped. And then, going straight up and straight down. Now, I want everyone to understand that the reason I put 82.8% of economists survey say it's a form of a V-shape, 60 days ago, the term Nike swoosh didn't even exist in economic lexicon. All right. So what they had to do is, it's not going to be a straight up and down. It's going to be straight down and a little bit of an angle going up. So it looks more like a swoosh, which is very appropriate for your neck of the woods, Sean.
Yeah, right, just do it.
So it's going to be a little bit protracted out to the third quarter, fourth quarter. That's where it's coming back in. But that's still a V-shaped recovery. Unlike a W where it's bouncing along the bottom, people were saying it's going to lay on the bottom for months and then come back. And some said it was going to be an L, where it's going to drop down and not come back for a decade. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those numbers are dropping dramatically. And as the numbers start coming in, more and more economists are saying, man, we're shocked. It does look like it's going to be a V-shaped recovery after all. So please feel very, very confident that we could make real good hay right now. Don't be sitting back waiting for something to happen. Make something happen. Now, I will tell you the single biggest opportunity for everyone on this call is the next slide.
All right.
This is the available listings.
This is key. So if you're a real estate agent, I'm going to put it in here as a banner. We're going to watch this. Okay. The next slide is clutch. There you go.
So now let's take a look at what this slide shows. The blue line is the number of active available listings through 2018 from January to December. The green line is the same exact thing, number of active listings from January to December for 2019. The orange line is this year. Ladies and gentlemen, the number of active listings is so low. It's not going to be the coronavirus that gets in the way of us. It's not going to be social unrest that gets in the way of us. Know what's going to get in the way of us? Ourselves. We're not listing enough properties. We have to get to the homeowner and make sure that the homeowner understands that there's tremendous buyers out there and there are houses selling. I think there are a lot of homeowners that are just saying, well, we have to wait for this to be over before we can get our house sold. We have to be with a bullhorn telling, listen, ladies and gentlemen, there are houses listing. There are a ton of buyers out there, and there are houses selling. Because that orange line, we have to get that much closer to that blue and green line as we go through the year where normal inventory would be. That's your charge on this call, all right? What we could do to help the housing market, what we could do to help ourselves, what we can do to help the real estate industry and the overall economy is make sure that we're helping the families in our neighborhoods understand what's truly happening. Because they are confused about what's happening. They're listening to the mainstream media. Oh, Armageddon is upon us. Instead of really understanding that if they want to sell the house, that opportunity exists for them there. Now let's go to the next slide, Sean. What I did is I took Zillow's latest report from June 12th, a couple of days ago, and I looked at the Seattle MSA, which covers your area. I couldn't drill it down. They don't drill it down right to your counties, but it covers the whole metropolitan service area for Seattle. That's Seattle and all of the counties around Seattle. And what we see is new pending sales month over month are up 9.9%. New listings taken are up 12.5%. What does that say? The business is starting to come back in a very powerful way. From last month to this month, there's tremendous increases. But we have to look at the bottom half, and that's really what we need to concentrate on. Total listings are still down almost 50% from last year. And new listings taken are down 30%. So again, if there's one thing I could tell you after 35 years in the business as an agent, as a manager, as the owner of a 13 office, 550 agent company, which I sold a couple of years ago, I understand the real estate business. And when you're thinking that, those who list last, here's what this is going to be. Those who don't list won't last this year, because we need those listings in a very, very big way, very, very big way. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand where Sean is a gigantic help. Having a mortgage professional that truly understands what's happening in the market is a gigantic help there. He's not just saying, well, I want that first time home buyer. He realizes that second time home buyer and third time home buyer, someone who just sold their house, they still need a mortgage. They just probably have a much better down payment.
And I want to take this time to acknowledge a good friend of mine that's a real estate agent. It's a newer relationship that I just developed, just because, yes, I am here and I'm here definitely to support you. I'm probably not the first call for that single wide 560 credit score manufactured home lead that you might want to give me. No. But yeah, go ahead, keep going.
All right, next slide. And what we did is we wanted to see exactly what was happening in your marketplace. And again, the data is only available in certain categories. So this is a category of Seattle, Tacoma, and Bellevue. That's how they broke it down. Next slide, if you can, Sean. The housing market recovery. NAR, actually Realtor.com, just came out with a brand new index that puts 4 components together. It came out 3 days ago. And that's what I love about David and Keeping Current Man is they really keep us current. Like as soon as something happens, we have slides and we have information on it. It's really phenomenal. This index combines 4 components: the demand, how much demand is out there, how much supply, what's the pricing, and how many days in the market. And they add those together in a weighted format. And what they show is that at the beginning of the year, your region was doing really well. It started off great, slide a little bit, and start coming back up again. So going through right before the pandemic hit, you could look like you were going to have an unbelievable year. Then, of course, everything closed down and everything came crashing down. But since that time, about mid-April, what has taken place is you've gone all the way back to where we started on February 1st. So what I will argue is that we're right at the precipice of this spring market, even though it's the summer.
And what's interesting about this
is taken from us and pushed back until now.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is if you look where that red line starts, it starts in between 321 and 328. Well, I remember it because it's when my kids were told they couldn't go back to school. That was a Friday. The governor had actually, right on that day, said he put in the stay-at-home order. And for the first week and a half, like I was telling David in our prep call for this, real estate agents were deemed non-essential. So you think about that and what that means. You see that red line drop. Real estate agents are very much so the quarterback of the entire real estate transaction. They got to know where all parties are on the field. And they work on their timing. The whole play runs through them. And, that's for the largest financial transaction that the average American makes, housing. And we're also 100% commission. So to be told that you're non-essential, the type of business that you do can no longer be conducted in that format, I think it's no surprise to anybody why we see that red line drop like a rock. And then, as you can see, as we started to open up, because now we're starting to open up in different phases in the counties now, that green line is quickly making its way back up. So this is an amazing graphic.
All right. So what we're saying is you're in a really good spot in where you are. All we have to do is keep it going. Sean's 1,000% right. And I like what he said about the fact that we're so essential. As a matter of fact, if we go to the next quote from the National Association of Home Builders, they actually said exactly what Sean just said. And a sign that housing stands poised to lead a post-pandemic economic recovery. We're essential to the country coming back. All right, build a confidence in the market for newly built single-family homes jumped 21 points to 58 in June, according to the latest National Association of Home Builders Wells Fargo Housing Market Index. So the builders are gaining more confidence. They're out there. And if we jump to the next slide, Sean was good enough to get us information from, if I'm saying this right, Sean, please correct me if not, Kitsap?
Yes, Kitsap County, yes.
Kitsap County. So we use this as an example. January, February, 2020, you combine those two, we're better than last year. We were, again, in your marketplace, you were ready for an absolutely phenomenal year. Then March, you got the houses sold in March, and then all of a sudden in the middle of March, bam, it hit. And look at April.
Oh,
it disappeared.
Yeah, and at that time, at the end of March, all residential construction was called to a halt by the governor. So you can see it in the stats. I mean, they're not lying.
All right. And then in May, and you should show this, in May, all of a sudden you took that back again. Here we go. So that right now, through May, you have more new housing starts this year than you did last year, even with being in the middle of a pandemic. And the nice thing is, nationally, those numbers are almost exactly the same as far as the graphs are concerned. So housing has come back in a very strong way. That is two reasons that's very important. What did I tell you right from the beginning? The single most important thing you could do is build inventory. What's the biggest objection a seller gives you for the last 3 years? Well, all right, I can sell my house. Where am I going to move to? Ladies and gentlemen, guess what? The builders are taking care of that objection for you. What do we know? People are saying, I wish I could redesign my house. I wish I could put a gym in it. I wish I could have an office. You know what I need? I need a video room because I'm doing so many Zoom calls with no matter what business they're in. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here is their opportunity. They're sitting on plenty of equity. Take that equity out and have a house built exactly the way they want it. With that sale, they can get into the new construction. Sean can help them with the mortgage getting into the new construction. And ladies and gentlemen, if there are any builders on this call, please be very friendly with them. They are giving you access to more listings with the more building they're doing. Don't think of new construction simply for the first-time home buyer. Right now, think about it for every one of your sellers, that's an option for them now. Take the major objection away. So that's the first thing. It will get you more listings. Second thing, let's look at the next slide, and your builders will want this slide, Sean. They want to put this up in their office. This is the residential fixed income, meaning the amount of money that is put into the economy when they build homes as a percentage share of GDP growth during the last 5 recessions. So let's explain it. Normally, new construction on an annual basis is about 3.7%. The years coming out of a recession, that number jumps dramatically, meaning last time in 2008, housing was an anchor to us coming back. We caused the mortgage meltdown, the overpricing of houses, people getting crazy. We caused the 2008 challenge. But as David showed you before, normally we're leading everybody out. We're not the anchor to the recovery. We're the wind behind the sail of the recovery. And we can see in each one of those recessions that happened. Even in 2008, new construction helped lead us out. The reason it wasn't strong enough, back then they were overbuilt. So they couldn't build a lot more houses. Now we're way underbuilt. We're underbuilt in this country by over 1 million homes. So again, if you have a builder that you know, hug them. They're probably the most valuable person to your future and this economy's future. Get them building, help them with that. Get those houses sold. because I'll give my last slide, then I'll turn it back to David. My last slide is, this is the impact it has, ladies and gentlemen. On every new construction that's done, the average economic impact on one house sold in the U.S. is $88,416. That's a new construction. A resale is about half that, a little less than half that, about $43,000. But every time a new house sells, $88,000 is put back in the economy. As a matter of fact, David looked it up in Washington. In Washington, the state of Washington, that's as close as we can get it, the impact is over $130,000. People buy furniture, people do this, they hire the attorney, they hire the surveyor. All that money comes back into the economy. So we can help drive this thing right now by making sure that we're selling houses, the existing sales market, and we're helping the builders get their houses sold. If we do those two things right now, the economy where you are will be driven forward, and that will drive the national economy forward. We have to all, the builders, the agents, and the mortgage professionals have to team up together as one unit and go at this thing hard. Because if we do it that way, the listings will come on the market and the economy will come back. That is one little glip in this whole thing that a lot of people like to talk about. And that's, well, Steve, how could you get so excited about it with so many people being unemployed? So, David, why don't we really take some of the what's the word? Let's make it a little bit, bring a little clarity to it, sure, instead of making it terrifying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's right, Steve. Everything you've said, the economy, we've talked about the economy coming back, real estate leading the way, the fact that experts agree the U.S. economy won't come back until the real estate market comes back. And then we have this question of jobs, leading a lot of people to say, okay, if we have so much unemployment in this country, and we do have a lot of unemployment, what's that going to do to the housing market? And even maybe some people saying, you know what, I'm going to wait. I'm going to see how this shakes out. Sean, I'm going to check in with you real quick. How are we doing on time?
We got a few more minutes left. I mean, probably about, say, 5.
Okay. Let me try to run through this pretty quickly because I want to do a couple of things. Let's go to the next slide because it gives a complete look at unemployment. Now, weekly unemployment will come out tomorrow. That's projected right now. Wall Street's expecting a number of about a million people filing for the initial claims of unemployment. But you see here on the orange bar, about 44 million people across the country have filed for unemployment since this started. But the blue bar actually shows you who's currently collecting unemployment, which is about 21 million. Now, I'm not suggesting that 21 million is a good number. It's a terrible number. And if there's one family or one individual in this country that wants a job and can't get it, we need to figure that out. But it helps us bring clarity if you turn on in the news, you hear somebody say there are over 40 million people unemployed in this country. Well, there are people that have filed but actually not collecting. Now, the good news in unemployment, if there is a silver lining to that, is in the next slide. It's in the May unemployment report we got, almost 2 weeks ago, that the economy gained 2.5 million jobs, largely led by the service sector. Folks in the food service business, think about that as bartenders and servers and coming back online. And you can go through there. I won't read each one. The one that surprised us the most was retail. We're seeing retail come back online. And we know that in this, that May, if you show that next slide, it's a quote from CNBC, that May was the biggest job surge in U.S. history since really the Great Depression. And we saw this pause button pressed on the economy. And then, as soon as people can get back to work, they're ready to get back to work. But I want to cover one thing. If you can fast forward through the next slide, because there were some questions about the jobs report. Let's go to the next one. And I would really say that there was a footnote in the jobs report. This wasn't something that somebody caught. It was rather them alluding to the fact there may have been miscalculation or classification in the jobs report. And I want to read this real quick. It says, some people who should have been classified as temporarily unemployed during the shutdown were instead misclassified as employed, but absent for other reasons. And other reasons are usually people taking, leave to go on a vacation or jury duty or take care of someone. So what are they saying there? They're saying, hey, we noticed that some people that should have been classified as temporarily unemployed checked off they were absent for another reason. Maybe that, we can't get into work. Our boss said we're going to come back in a couple weeks when this is over. So not something that is, was an aha or a gotcha or caught in this. It was a footnote in the unemployment report. So what the Keeping Current Matters team did is we went back and we looked at unemployment, how it has been published. And again, the Bureau of Labor Statistics hasn't changed anything at this point. And we added back in, what if we went and counted those people? So Sean, go to that next slide. And this is the great news. With with that ad in there, either way, the unemployment rate improved. That's the story there. That's the news. And again, I'm not suggesting that with almost 21 million people collecting unemployment in this country, that's a good thing. But what is a good thing is the unemployment rate month over month is improving. People are able to get back to work. Businesses are innovating where they can bring people together safely, and there are questions still to be answered across the country. I'm not suggesting there aren't, but what I am suggesting is that we're heading in the right direction. And our prayer is that we continue in that right direction, that more and more people are able to go back to their jobs, more and more businesses are able to function, so that they can provide the livelihood for themselves and their team. But the last point, and I'll end on this, what nobody, in the next slide, Sean, is debating right now is that employers added 2.5 million jobs in the month of May, blowing Wall Street expectations out of the water. And we're so thankful for that, right? Economists had forecasted a loss of 8.3 million jobs. So if there's ever time to be wrong, we want them to be wrong in this way. Economists said, look, we're going to lose almost 8.5 million jobs, 8.3 million jobs, but instead we created 2.5 million jobs. Certainly good news to see there, and we expect and hope for, as we go down the next few weeks and are able to see the June unemployment report, that trend continues. So I want to pause there. I want to be mindful of the time there, Sean, but know that our team, however we can support you, and listen, you and I talk about this stuff a lot, and they are lucky to have you partners on this call to bring this information. However we can support everybody, know that Steve and I and the whole KCM crew want to do that.
Yeah, this has been extremely phenomenal, because the whole goal for this call was to make sure that everybody was cognizant of the concept that, yes, again, many times, like you and Steve have said, the economy did hit a pause button. The housing market hit a pause button, but we can still finish out strong. We can still help homeowners understand the equity position that they're in, the leverage they're in, the power that they're in. And by being great partners to the builders in the community, by the real estate agents and the lenders coming together and providing, all of the data that is coming out from KCM. And by the way, if you are a real estate agent right now, I'm going to put in the comments the Keeping Current Matters information. Please go there, subscribe, get these slides every single month sent to you with David and Steve's commentary, because right now more than ever, we need great information so that we can make great decisions and communicate in the best way possible what's going on with the housing market. This is our job. This is the new arena that we're playing in. And our customers are requiring this right now. They need this information. So I'm so excited that you guys were able to join me on here.
Thank you, Sean. We're very much.
All right, guys. Well, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they do a deep dive in the Facebook group. To be part of the Facebook group, subscribe to the service. This is, again, the best content that you're going to get inside of the real estate profession. And you guys, any closing thoughts or words?
We are grateful for the partnership we have with you, Sean. And I would say thank you for bringing all of this information to everybody. I know, Rene, you started out with Rene and Steve and I on. You've got Barry on tomorrow, somebody who's great.
Actually, Barry's on in 15.
Oh, is Barry on today? I thought he was on tomorrow. Great market knowledge there. So thank you for everything you do to get the message out there.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is how I'm going to end it. I'm going to tell you, the next time you see Sean outside of this social distancing situation, hug Sean. Give him a really good hug, because let's just look at today. You know, we don't do a lot of webinars because we get hundreds and hundreds of requests. Sean has that national reputation that we wanted to be here with him. He had Rene Rodriguez, one of the biggest speakers in the country on what Rene handles. He has so much respect for Sean. Right behind us is a guy smarter than us, and Barry Habib, giving you all the great mortgage information. Just think about for a second that Sean has that rep, that we all admire him so much, that we all said, no, Sean, if you're doing something, we're in it. All right? That says something about Sean. So if you are using it, realize you've made the right decision. If you're not using his services right now, please reconsider that, because if he could bring this group of people together, you know that the industry thinks he's one of the great mortgage professionals in the country, not just in your region. Thank you very much, Sean.
With that, guys, we're going to wrap up, but I appreciate you both so much. I will continue to subscribe to the service and promote you guys because, again, I think you have the best information out in our industry. So, guys, thank you so much. And everybody, remember, keeping current matters. Take care.
Thanks, Sean.
Bye-bye.
Guys.
Bye-bye.